Hello and welcome to Dung Racers International's first video in English, which ought to be appropriate since it's supposed to be international. You are going to have to put up with both this being filmed with a potato and my atrocious English. I hope you can make do anyway. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate a rather significant difference in the behavior of engine management systems which have either a hot thread or hot film sensor for measuring air mass or have a manifold air pressure sensor in the specific case when there is false air. Here's an old Volvo engine. There's a Bosch LH2 Jetronic system, as far as I know. And false air will be any air entering the system after the air mass meter here. That will be air which is not measured. So if we pull the crankcase breather hose ever so gently, well, I was going to try to balance it, so I pulled it completely off, but it conks out completely. Simply because so much air enters the system, the intake, that the mixture becomes so lean that the engine stops. I was supposed to hold it halfway so it would just idle very, very roughly, which is what you normally get, but that's probably familiar to you anyway if you've been around cars for a while. Here's a Hyundai with God knows what kind of engine management system, but instead of a hot thread or hot film sensor, it has a manifold air pressure sensor, so it doesn't measure the intake air mass directly. It infers it from the manifold air pressure. I'm going to crank this thing. You're going to see. Idling nicely. This car actually had a false air problem, and then it behaved in this way. We're gonna pull this hose to get some false air. Completely unlike the Volvo, if there's false air, when there's a manifold air pressure sensor, you get a runaway idle. And that was exactly what was the problem with this car on account of a broken intake gasket, which has been replaced since. Thing is, if false air enters in a system where there's a manifold air pressure sensor, the manifold air pressure will of course increase, and the engine management system will compensate accordingly. So idle will increase. The sensor with a hot thread air mass meter cannot compensate accordingly. That's the difference. As much as I googled when there was the trouble with the Hyundai, I googled specifically on Hyundai idling problems and such. There was nobody who ever mentioned this basic fact on the internet. So now I do.